Hello and welcome to the Paul Green Comedy Podcast. It is September 1st, 2024. This is episode 266. Stand-up comedian, improviser, actor, and dreamer Paul Green, documenting my journey as I pursue comedy and try to fulfill my dreams and share whatever tidbits of wisdom or the lack thereof I ascertain while in pursuit of said dreams. And I am on the verge of a pretty crazy week coming up. First of all, let's get caught up. So, yesterday I was able to submit an audition, which was really, really fun. And I've had a couple auditions this week. I had a callback on Friday and a couple of self-tapes. And it's just really fun to have agents out there who are trying to get me stuff still. And I'm very grateful for that. And it's all part of this crazy journey that I'm on. And if you followed the podcast a couple of days ago, I had a table read for a sitcom out in Los Angeles with an independent production company that seems very promising. A lot of cool stuff going on there. And as I'm still pursuing stand-up comedy, I also have some cool sort of auxiliary gigs. And that gig, well, one of those gigs coming up this week is the Magic Castle in Hollywood, California. And this gig is just so fun. And all I'm actually really doing is playing piano. And how it happened was when I moved out to Hollywood back in 2015, I got connected with a fairly famous actor named Bill Cott, who has been in the acting game for almost his entire adult life, like a good 20, 25 years. He's been in tons of stuff. If you look up his name, Bill Cott, it's spelled C-H-O-T-T, you'll see he has a resume a mile long of television and movies that he's been in. He was introduced to me as a friend. He's a tremendously talented improviser. And we got connected through a mutual friend. We went to lunch, and he was just so gracious and kind and just gave me advice and talked to me about what I can expect. And it was just a really great conversation. And through that, he also learned that I play piano and that I do a lot of music improv. And he's a big-time music improviser, incredibly talented. And through that, I did a couple of music improv classes with him, where I actually brought my keyboard and played piano for his music improv class. And that started our friendship and professional relationship as well, although it was a lot more friendship than professional. But we've done some pretty cool things in our day. So somewhere around maybe 2017 or 2018, I don't remember the exact year, he calls me up and asks if I can play piano for this magic comedy musical that he and this other magician do. And one of their regular shows is they perform at the Magic Castle in Hollywood. If you don't know the Magic Castle, it is a venue like none else in the world. It's actually somewhat iconic because of this. It's a private magician's club and a invite-only nightclub, all featuring magic shows. And on any given night, there will be 5 different magic shows happening all simultaneously throughout this venue. and it's right off of Hollywood Boulevard. It's literally behind where they filmed the Oscars, behind the mall there. If you're at all familiar with Hollywood Boulevard and the Dolby Theater where they filmed the Oscars, the Dolby Theater is part of this gigantic mall on Hollywood Boulevard, right up the street from the Chinese Theater and, the Walk of Fame and all of that stuff. Well, behind the mall, the street just behind the mall, it's like hardly a block away, is a street called Franklin, and that is right where the Magic Castle is. And it just looks like an old mansion. It actually probably was. I remember reading the history of it once, but I don't remember now. But I feel like it was one of those, some gazillionaire built a mansion in Hollywood before Hollywood was Hollywood. And then once Hollywood became Hollywood, then that became like super prime real estate. And instead of keeping it a big, gigantic mansion, it got bought and converted into the Magic Castle. Don't quote me on that. I'm probably not 100% accurate on that history, but it's something like that. So it's just this huge property, and it's so cool. Everything in it is so elegant. It is a formal dress. They have a very strict formal dress code. Got to be in a suit and tie. You got to be in gowns. They prohibit photography. There's all just these cool little rules that make the venue itself just an incredibly unique evening. And it's open Monday through Sunday nights, pretty much. And all night, every night, there are about a half dozen magic shows going on multiple times throughout the night. So whenever that was, 2018, my buddy Bill calls me and says, hey, why don't you come play piano for this group and come perform with us at the Magic Castle? And I was just like, heck yeah, let's do it. So I met up with them. Their previous piano player who helped them write this musical magic comedy show. It's so creative. It's so unique. They come out with a big song and dance number, and then I pretty much underscore all of these vignettes. So all of the magic occurs within a scene. And of course, they're incorporating the audience and all that stuff. So I initially, when I met up with them, they just showed me a recording of what the piano player before them did. And I don't even think they had sheet music. So I had to just sort of listen and figure out how to play their big opening number. And then from there, the rest of it was a lot more interpretive because it's underscoring, right? So it's just me sort of creating mood music to what it is that they're doing. And I just have so much fun doing it. It's such a fun show. And I've now been doing this for, however long that's been, 5, 6 years, 7 years. And we'll do a run at the Magic Castle for once or twice a year, except for COVID, which unfortunately, as it did most things, put a damper in live performance. But since COVID kind of died down, we started back up. I think maybe 2023. I'm trying to think if I did a gig with them in. Oh, you want to know what? In 2021 was supposed to be our first time back to the Magic Castle since COVID shut everything down. It was December of 2021. So, as you know, COVID hit 2020 in about March. Los Angeles was super strict with shutdowns. So all live entertainment was shut down. Magic Castle was shut down. And the next time that we were asked to perform there was December of 2021. So it had been almost 2 years Now, in that entire time, I had never gotten COVID. I had never tested positive for it. And the week we were supposed to perform again at the Magic Castle, I got COVID for the first time, and we had to cancel our Magic Castle performance, the first one after almost 2 years. Major heartbreak. 2022, I don't think we did one in 2022. I feel like it was maybe early 2023 was the first time back since COVID. So it had been almost 2 or 3 years. And now we're back on doing it about twice a year. So we actually performed at the Magic Castle, I think back in April we were there. And here we are again. So this week I will be heading out to the Magic Castle and performing there, which is super fun. And then next week I am going to be in LA on Monday, and then I need to drive down to San Diego, and I will be doing a stand-up comedy show in San Diego on Monday night. And then I need to drive back to Phoenix because I have a private gig on Tuesday the 10th. And then Thursday the 12th, I will be performing at JP's with the Midlife Crisis Comedy Show. Then Friday, me and Josh will be flying out to Iowa, and we have 2 gigs in Iowa, one Friday night and one Saturday during the day. So we're just approaching a crazy couple of weeks. And I got to tell you, everybody, I talk a lot about my comedy journey and all of that stuff on this podcast, but the overarching theme of this podcast is going for your dreams and celebrating wins and just taking a step back every now and again and go like, oh my gosh, just look at all of this cool stuff that I am getting to do. And I'm so grateful for it. And it is so exciting and it's so fun. And sometimes it's so easy to take for granted. I mean, it is so rare that I get to perform at the Magic Castle a couple times a year. It's one of the most exclusive performance venues in the world. And I just got sort of an inside track because I'm a halfway decent piano player, and I happened to know Bill. And when they needed a piano player, they reached out to me, and that has created now a performance relationship that has existed for about 6 years. And I've talked about the story about how I met Josh, and so now the following week, I've got 4 shows scheduled with Josh, because the Tuesday night private gig is actually a Midlife Crisis comedy private show. So we're doing that show together. Then we're doing JP's in Gilbert on Thursday, and then we're going to be in Des Moines, Iowa Friday night, and then we're going to be in Albia, Iowa on Saturday. And that's 4 different shows, all with the Midlife Crisis comedy show. And that whole thing just kind of just came out of the blue. And now it's this really cool part of my life and these really cool, incredible, fulfilling, fun, creative shows that I get to do with my buddy Josh Novi. And that's all to say, everybody, whatever your dream is, just go for it and work at it. And yes, there's going to be the ups and downs. Everybody talks about it. And I am not even going to pretend that there are not tremendous ups and downs. But the flip side of that is, if you just keep at it, if it's in your heart, if you're pursuing it, if you're passionate about it, things will start to happen, and you will have these moments when you get to go, oh my gosh, look at where I'm at right now. Look at what I'm doing right now. I can't believe I get to do this. So keep at it, everybody. Keep pursuing those dreams. So with that, last night I was really, really tired, and I did not commentate on the 48 Laws of Power. So yesterday's chapter, it was kind of confusing. I'm not going to lie. So the law is disarm and infuriate your enemies with the mirror effect. It may not have used the word enemies. It might have used the word people. Let me double check. Okay, it didn't actually say people or enemies. It just said disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. Now, I listened to this chapter. I didn't quite get it. It's going to be transparent. I wasn't really tracking how they were describing the mirror effect, and they used it in a bunch of different contexts and kind of several different examples and stories and metaphors. They talked about Medusa, and they were like, oh, Medusa was this hideous beast, and anybody who would look at her would turn to stone. But then Perseus turned his bronze shield into a mirror shield by polishing it, and then he just held the mirror up to Medusa, and then she saw herself and turned herself to stone. So it's like, okay, so that's the mirror effect. And it just talks a lot about how, like, when you reflect people's behavior back to them, then they will maybe see how they are wrong, and then it'll disarm them or infuriate them, and then you can conquer them. It was a lot of those types of metaphors. And then it also talked about holding up mirrors to yourself and all of that. So I can't really articulate what exactly is that they're saying at any given time in that chapter. So let me just talk about this idea of holding up a mirror to yourself, because again, I am not a fan of using any of these principles to conquer or victimize or manipulate other people, which a lot of this book seems to be geared towards that end goal, that objective. I'm a lot more hippity-dippity, let's get along and love each other. But what I am a fan of, I am definitely a fan of self-reflection. I'm definitely a fan of holding up the mirror. And sometimes that can be very painful. And I have had to do that so many times in my life when I've just had to look back and just go, what the heck was I doing? The heck was I thinking? Why was I behaving that way? Why was I showing up in that manner? What is it? What was going on with me internally that caused me to show up and behave in the manner that I did? Especially if the results that I was getting were not favorable. So in that regard, if we're going to talk about the mirror effect in regards to self-reflection and being willing to take a hard look at oneself, that I am a huge fan of, because I really feel like the only legitimate growth and improvement that I've experienced in my lifetime is a result of me being willing to look at myself as honestly as possible, or receiving feedback from people who I know and trust. But the reality is I wouldn't be able to receive their feedback if I then didn't look at the mirror. Because people have given me plenty of feedback in my life that I have ignored. And why did I ignore it? Probably because I wasn't willing to look in the mirror. Maybe what they were saying I wasn't willing to look at, or I didn't want to see it in myself. So the fact that somebody else saw it was irrelevant. Both good and bad, by the way. I think human beings are maybe just as notorious for discarding effective feedback or critical feedback as we are deflecting positive feedback, and not wanting to allow ourselves to receive a compliment or to receive praise every bit as much as maybe we are hesitant to embrace or receive negative feedback or negative criticism. I've definitely been guilty of both. I have definitely been guilty of not allowing other people to see the good in me and listen to positive feedback And I am also one who is not the best at receiving negative, I shouldn't say negative criticism, just receiving criticism, even if the criticism is with positive intent and is accurate and would also prove helpful to me in the long run if I embraced it. This happened recently. If you follow the podcast, I've talked recently about how I have a tendency in my stand-up comedy act to yell, to get really energetic and exercise about something, and then I kind of start yelling at the audience. And in my mind, I was just being very passive and very emotional and very expressive. However, I had received feedback from multiple sources, by the way, all sources who are reliable, people who I know only want the best for me. These are individuals who they definitely aren't trying to hurt me. They aren't trying to sabotage me. It's like, no, they actually want to be helpful and want me to be successful. And I had several different people all say, yeah, the yelling seems to actually distract from what you're saying. And it actually sort of pushes us away instead of draws us in. So what do I do in that situation? Do I go, F all those people, they don't know me, they don't know what they're talking about? Or do I hold up a mirror and I look at myself and go, Paul, are you yelling too much? Why are you yelling? Do you need to yell? Is being the type of comedian who's yelling on stage the way that you want to portray yourself? Is that the brand you want to have? Or is there maybe some room to cool it a little bit? You know what I mean? So, in that regard, or in that context, or in that manner, I am all about exercising the mirror effect. This whole try to hold up mirrors to other people so that they turn to stone, or I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, 48 laws of power. I just have different objectives in my life. The objective in my life is not to obtain absolute power at all cost and at all expense, and by not caring who I bulldoze over to get to that power. My objective is to live a life of fulfillment and meaning and joy. And to me, the greatest joys I have found is pursuing my dreams and my passion by, as much as I can, being more authentic and transparent and creating very meaningful, honest, transparent relationships with people who I love and care about and whose company I enjoy being in. Sorry, I know that's improper English. To me, fulfillment is getting to do a comedy show with Josh Novey. To me, fulfillment is being able to connect with the woman who's managing our comedy career and our social media. It's being, able to, connect with the woman I'm dating in a meaningful and transparent, honest way, and being vulnerable, and being able to go to LA with my dad and being able to connect over comedy and performance, or going to dinner with my mom, or, having a conversation with my brother, or the other day or last week on, wow, was that already a week ago? Gosh, I think it was. Last Sunday, I called an old friend who I hadn't talked to in about a year. And I just called him up, and we just chewed the fat and chatted for about an hour. And, none of us had anywhere to be. None of us were trying to get anything from each other. That is fulfilling to me. So, and yes, I get there are bills to pay. And yes, I get that there are, robbers and murderers and horrible people who are, not so benevolent. And yes, we have to get bills paid. And yes, we have to have jobs. And I I have found, though, that the more that I am pursuing my dreams and my joy and my fulfillment, that all of that other stuff has a magical way of working itself out. I don't understand why. I don't know why it works that way. And I know it sounds very, mystical and woo-woo and whatever. That's just my experience. And that's all I have to say about that. Follow your heart, do what's fulfilling to you, and I have found that doing so passionately and authentically, that you'll be able to find a way to get the bills paid, because they do need to be paid. So everybody, that is all for today. So I've got a big week coming up. I hope all of your dreams are coming true. You're out there having fulfilling, beautiful, meaningful experiences, meaningful relationships, and you're finding a little joy on the way, and you're finding enough joy to push through the hard times when things aren't so fun and aren't going well, or negative, discouraging setbacks happen, which they always will. So stay true, my friends, and things will work out. That's been my experience. All right, everybody. So that is all for me. This is September 1st. Oh my gosh, we're already in September. My goodness. My goodness. Does the time fly? 1 week from NFL football. Boo, boo, boo. I can't wait. So I will sign off for now. I love you all so much. I hope you're doing well. This is the Paul Green Comedy Podcast, episode 266, September 1st, 2024. I love you all so much, and I will talk to you all tomorrow.